it's all of us are potentially the cool kid or the loser, depending on the day.
Right.
So there is no such thing as a cool kid or a loser. Really, it's just what are you for that day or that hour?
Health Chasers, achieving high health and happiness through the practices of self-experimentation.
Well, it's crazy how moments can go by so much faster than other moments.
Yeah, it's weird the passage of time. I keep hearing that everyone has that. It's almost like a common theory that everyone thinks that there is no such thing as time. We just have this perception of time. I don't know, man. I'm real based around our senses, and we have the sense of time. We have this.
Yeah, time is it's a unique concept because we do label it and measure it, but really it's just about how many times the sun comes up and down.
Yeah, I've I've kind of noticed thyroid affects your sensation of time passing, but I don't know if it increases, if it feels faster or feels slower. But it feels like you notice more per second with thyroid going on. So it's almost like you feel like a race car driver should feel like, just a super heightened sense of alert as if you're flying down the road and you need to be just more aware per second if you're driving a race car, you know what I mean? A millisecond and you crash and die. And that's the feeling that I get when I think that thyroid hormones being activated in my body. It's just a greater sensation of per second. So I don't know if you'd say that's time's passing faster, time's passing slow, almost kind of slower because you're doing more per second. For I mean, that's my thinking. But what I see from other parents, millennial age parents, is their health is so destroyed. And for me, the newest factor is electronics. So electronics strip away any stored energy that they have, like energy reserve. So in the reserve that makes you resilient to stress, because you always have that backup energy. They have no backup. The parents have no backup energy. So the parents are in such a bad state of health that completely overtakes their parenting style. And so, since the parents are very fearful, anxious, and just constantly worried about the next threat coming to them from life, they impose those beliefs on the kid, who might actually still have energy reserves and be fully energized and all that, and have stored energy. And so the kid's somewhat resilient, but the parent is imposing this kind of worldview that's fearful and anxious and worried, and it will eventually make a fearful, anxious, worried, young adult.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that there's not being, whether it's mainstream or health, it's not talked about enough, if not at all, the connection of health and electronics.
We were put in it's like the frog in the boiling pot. Like if it's boiling, it'll just jump out. So if all these electronics killed us in 2008, when smartphones came out, or 2007, if they just killed us, it's like, oh, we would have learned. Most of humanity would have lived on and thrived without smartphones. But since it was just, the water was just getting warmed little by little over the years, we didn't jump out of the pot and we're just like, oh, smartphones are the best thing in the world.
Since I got my dumb phone, it's been a complete shift of lifestyle when it comes to my phone. And we're understanding how time works, that we're not going to be here forever. And at least for me, I'm understanding that in order for me to leave my mark, like, I can't be watching movies and scrolling a phone for hours.
Yeah.
I have to get something done. Do you think that the withdrawal from this technology has kind of helped you unlock other things in your health, like maybe that you haven't used for, like maybe productivity or creativity?
Yes. Yeah. So I know for certain that the touch screen on smartphones strips away your stored energy. And that stored energy is going to go to your, I guess you would call them accessories systems. So like your body makes sure that like the most important stuff gets energy prioritized. And so the supplementary systems, like more just enjoyable emotions or thyroid or just other types of things that are just the beneficial, fun, positive things, once that stored energy is dropped down because all your touchscreen use, you simply don't have the energy reserves to activate those better systems. And so your lifestyle, mode of living is reduced to that of someone who's just staying alive, basically, which is extremely depressing. And it's so negative to even think that our lives have been reduced to this from these devices that are only like 14, 15 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And they've just stripped us away of so much potential joy over these last 15 years, man.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Because I think I've only been off normal smartphones for 2 years, maybe 3, something like that. I did use this e-ink smartphone for about a year.
It was a good phone, I thought. It was way healthier than...
Yeah, probably 80% better. That's my thinking than other smartphones.
I kept thinking, man, this phone would be good if I didn't have to, like, it'd be even better if I didn't have to actually touch it. So if there was some sort of pen or something.
So these new devices, they have this pressure sensitive screen, and so I think you don't have, there's no conduction between your hand and the device, as far as I know. Because if you look at the comments of people who are using e-ink devices, it's like a lot of people that are into health. Like, oh yeah, there's like a waiting list of people making comments about like a color e-ink monitor, a desktop monitor, and I'm one of them who's like, give me a desktop monitor that's e-ink. That's not $1,500, of course, a couple hundred. Everyone probably should be using that technology. These old phones, these old screens should just never be in production again.
Yeah. How is that different from Wi-Fi versus the wires? Do you still hold that as a...
That's way less of a threat to your health. Far less of a threat than just the actual screen itself. The screen is emanating what they call corrupted light. And it's really the corrupted light that it destroys you. Because your body needs to take in so much of the primary color, the 7 primary colors of light. It's using that light for all sorts of bodily processes. So when you get that 7 primary colors of light that's corrupted, that's toxic, that has a toxic resonance behind it or with it, then all of a sudden just your normal bodily processes get corrupted and start malfunctioning. Mm-hmm. Whereas with the Wi-Fi signal, which is I forget what range it is, but it's radio frequencies. Mm-hmm. So it's way up there, way past infrared frequencies on the red side of light. There's certainly a negative effect from that. Mm-hmm. It's still hitting your body. It's still catching those light receptors. But just from what I can tell, it's not even close to the negativity that comes from just say a normal smartphone's screen. So it's like
TVs and laptops.
Yeah, all those devices, all those screens. I'm thinking that the Wi-Fi is maybe worth like 5% of the negative effect that device will have on you, and the screen itself is like 80% of the negative effect, and then there's like 15% that are coming from like metallic components in the build, because the most toxic devices are ones that have a metal shell. I haven't seen an iPhone in years, but I think that's what an iPhone has. And that's what a lot of Apple products, they have this metal, like aluminum shell, incredibly toxic. Very, very, very toxic to be using those things. I used to use those products But
So it's a combination of the light, the resonance, and the actual material of the phone.
that it's made of. Yeah, especially the outer material. So I always try and get the device, not that I have too many options, but I want a device that has a plastic outer shell and as much plastic component as possible, because plastic's pretty non-toxic. For what we're talking about. Obviously you wouldn't want to, like, consume plastic dust or anything that's toxic, but
It's funny. I don't want to change subjects here, but I read a study connecting metal leaching material from foods to insulin resistance.
really, dang, I'd like to see that.
Can you think about how that it could, if there is a huge connection to metal leaching and insulin resistance, how the normal health mainstream world would never make that connection.
Oh, man.
Like, how they can't make the connection of our electronics killing us.
Yeah.
How are they going to make that connection of, like, we're using spoons and cookware. A lot of it was in cookware. So how many people do you think use cast iron skillets versus stainless steel, and how prevalent, how continuous that's being utilized every day, every single. It doesn't even matter what you're eating now.
They're pounding themselves over and over and over with metals.
And these things, this isn't even diet related. This isn't even close. Food doesn't even matter at this point.
Yeah, you could be eating the potentially the healthiest possible foods, but in these toxic vessels that are leaching, nickel and whatever the I can't even. What are those nonstick coatings?
What is it? Teflon?
Yeah, Teflon's one of them. Yeah, I think that's toxic. I think it breaks apart into the food. Yeah. And then there's more too. There's a couple other ones. But,
what about the stone products, like the
they're like ceramic cookware?
Yeah. What about those? That material is actually really used in crock pots. Is what I was trying to think of. So a lot of people that make bone broth and that are boiling things for hours and hours and hours, that could really kill you if negative things are in there. Yes,
because I had a pressure cooker that was this is probably about 8 years ago. I had a pressure cooker that was some sort of aluminum type inner pot, and I always got these weird, like, headache symptoms from doing the broth, a bone broth type thing in this aluminum pot. And that's before I knew about leaching. I think that's what maybe started my interest in what are these metals doing? Are they coming into the food? And then pretty quickly the answer was like, oh yeah, they are. But yeah, I don't know. I need to use that stone type cookware, ceramic type cookware. I need to experiment with those different. We've been using the glass cookware, Corning Vision.
Yeah, something like that.
Which is awesome, but I break one of these like every 6 months, so it's kind of annoying.
I've been really catching myself when I'm straining foods, not to, because we do have stainless steel like strainers and stuff like that. Like, we can't use that anymore. That's not an option. And
so I got an update. So I don't know. So I have been purposefully using a little bit of metal leaching to get these metals, because I use a minimum stainless steel around here, but I have been doing a tiny bit of stainless steel leaching on purpose to get, I wasn't positive if it was, because stainless steel, from my understanding, has nickel and chromium. That's what makes it stainless. And I knew that there was some benefit from actually leaching a small amount of those metals and getting that into your body. But the update is I finally got a piece of metal that's pure chromium, and so I've just been using that to leach, and I knew that one of those two metals had a very beneficial impact on your vitamin D activation, basically, the whole making the vitamin D system work. And so now I think I can pretty much say that it's chromium that helps that system out. And so you probably don't want the nickel in your body. So I don't have to use stainless steel leaching anymore, because now I have this pure chromium piece, and I'm probably only going to use that going forward. But I still use knives that are stainless steel, and
Yeah, you have to. You can't
yeah,
cut around every corner. Got to slice
yeah,
an orange or something like that. With
yeah,
a knife.
yeah. So you just minimal contact time, really.
Unless you
That's
can
all you can do.
find an all chromium knife set.
That's true. Yeah, I gotta talk to a metallurgy person. But there's some other questions I would have for a metallurgy person, like what is this black coating on metal made of? I thought it was a phosphate coating, but then I was looking at some stuff the other day that says that it was a oxide coating. They call it black oxide. So, this stuff is insanely toxic to be touching. You're almost touching it right now in that chair. It's funny.
Oh shit!
You're like a centimeter away from
Really?
touching it.
Oh damn.
Yeah, this black coating is just insanely toxic. Like, it'll give you basically hypoxia symptoms. For me, I touch it for like a minute. It's giving me symptoms of hypoxia in my body, which is insane. Touching something will poison you that horribly, and yet we don't. This isn't on everyone's radar. How does everyone not know about this?
Well,
how did I not know about this for most of my life?
No one's making the connection to any of the external factors of.
You don't want our earthly experience to be all pain, misery, just all the negatives in life. It can have some negatives, but we'd like it to be overwhelmingly positives. And that's what I'm working for. I've had experiences, just like you, where it tells me that this is possible.
Because once you get to a level of health, those experiences that you're looking for are already there. They're already within you already. You already have it. You don't have to go search for it.
You know what's funny? To bring up drinking, last night we went out and got Mexican food, and I roughly know how I achieved this, but I was able to get this inrushing of positivity. I don't know if you noticed it in me, but because I remember that from my drinking days, of where sometimes drinking, when you start drinking, you have this inrush of just insane positivity, and it might last for an hour, 2 hours, maybe 3 hours, usually around 2. And I was able to achieve that with the meal that I ate last night. Obviously, 0 alcohol. And we talked about last week about how that's positivity is kind of based around the interplay of oxalic acid and acetic acid. And it's kind of funny because I basically had a high oxalate meal and high acetic acid meal, together, which I don't normally. It's kind of hard actually to set up that meal. I usually try to avoid acetic acid in general because of its. If you're not taking care of it, it can really destroy your bones. That meal worked out, and I got that for probably about an hour. I had this inrushing of positivity. So basically, I got the same effect that people search for with alcohol, without using alcohol. On the cloudy day, you're just not feeling that. It's just, I don't know what to do with cloudy days at this point. Like, it's like a
cloudy days and rainy days.
Yeah.
Cloudy days and rain. It's like we really need to go into our tool bag and figure out on those days like some high experimentation with the light. I remember you artificial light and vitamin D. You've been you were kind of tinkering with that a little bit, and I felt like a lot of people in the health world experiment with red light and things of that nature, but we have found that all that is being utilized with 60 hertz plug-in. So it's just not going to work out. Interesting.
Pretty much every cloudy day I treat as a highly experimental day. Like, I'll just do some crazy stuff that I just thought of that day because I know if I don't, like, the day's going to be crap anyways. Yeah. So it's like it's a throwaway day. You might as well just try something crazy.
Exactly. Hang upside down or whatever. I have had some pretty good positive days the last 3 or 4 days with basically fasting after 8 p.m. or whenever it gets dark.
So you're doing either either you don't eat after sunset and you use electronics, or if you have to eat after sunset when it's dark, then you do not use electronics after that.
Right.
It's tough. It's tough to do.
Yeah.
Or sometimes it is. Sometimes it's easy.
But I've been getting some great results with that so far. I'm in my first week, and it's been going really well all day.
My experience with coffee and chocolate is that the day I first use it will be fine, but then the day after that, even if I don't use it, I won't be able to activate vitamin D, which obviously is a crushing blow. That's cornerstone of what you want your day. In fact, I that's the first thing that I worry about nutritionally when I wake up. How do let's get vitamin D activated. Let's get this going. So if you ate something the previous day that basically stops you from doing that, it's just horrible.
Can't even get off to a start.
Yeah, it's basically you're creating a cloudy day for yourself. It's like,
that people that are into health are kind of just maybe really into themselves and want to look at themselves and think about how they're performing. I know a lot of athletes and a lot of people that do performance-based things are already in that type of mindset, but I don't know if like business people or investors or software engineers, things of that nature, if they're thinking about their life in terms of how I perform and how is that connected to health routines. We were talking about this yesterday. I just thought this was interesting to kind of bring up now, but a lot of people, I guess, in the repeat forums are really going towards taking a thyroid supplement, and I don't know if they're thinking that is improved. Like the body to me doesn't seem to work that way. If you take thyroid, that improves your thyroid. That's so simple, What are your thoughts on taking a thyroid supplement as opposed to doing other things?
my personal thinking is that taking any supplement is the wrong choice overall for long term. I don't want any supplements, and that includes the hormone supplements. I think just like all other supplements, like vitamin E is useful for knowing what vitamin E feels like. Beyond that, it's not useful. I don't like it. I do not recommend anyone consume it outside of just getting the sense of what vitamin E feels like and can do for you. And that's the same thing. Maybe you could take thyroid for a day or a week to get a sense, possibly, if it even has an effect on you, but possibly maybe it'll give you the sense of what thyroid is, how it feels, what it can do for you. And then outside of that, I think it's a horrible choice to take it longer than a week or so. Yeah, there's almost no real research done on manipulating the hormone cascade. It's almost even just a myth that you can't even manipulate it, you know what I mean? I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that think like, well, once you're just making your cholesterol into a bunch of estrogen and cortisol, then that's just, that's the life that you get. You just have to live in misery. It's kind of funny because people have the same kind of viewpoint of, like, young people look at each other and they grade each other basically, in my opinion, mostly based on the hormones. And they're like, oh, this is the cool kid. He has such and such hormones. They don't know that. They just feel, they feel that he's cool. But it's like, these things can easily be manipulated within a day. So who really is the cool kid? It's all of us are potentially the cool kid or the loser, depending on the day.
Right.
So there is no such thing as a cool kid or a loser. Really, it's just what are you for that day or that hour. So that whole thinking, like, all our young people are trained to think that way. Oh, this person is this way. Like, no, they're that way this hour. Who knows what they're going to be in the future?
That moment.
So yet another thing we need to change about the world. I was thinking about that because we have talked about that on the podcast several times. But I was thinking about that. Well, how can we prove what we have going on? Because I'm not doing the blood testing, a blood panel or anything like that. I'm not gonna get stuck with some lowest bidder Chinese needle just to prove something to myself or someone else. But I think really anyone doing a long form conversation that's public, that's your proof. We're putting hours of our voices out there to be analyzed. And your analysis of what our voices tell you, like, that's what we are. For this hour, that was our health. That's your judgment of our health is based on this hour. And it changes, every hour. Like, I feel certain ways this hour, as I think we did the last podcast about a week ago. Maybe I was more positive a week ago versus now. I think I'm maybe more chill now than I was a week ago. Little things like that. Mm-hmm. But I do want to be judged on this hour. And I think it's going to come through in our voices where our health is at. And
10.
How.
I'll give you a 10.
Like all those little things. Like, are we able to have a sense of humor? Because a lot of people can't talk about something like health or talk about anything with a sense of humor because maybe they don't have a sense of humor. It doesn't exist. And you could say, well, look, that person just doesn't value humor, man. And it's like, no. That's a commonly held beneficial thing is to have and utilize your sense of humor. If you have lost that or never had it, that's undesirable. Like, you don't want that, especially if you've lost it. Obviously, you have lost something, and in a perfect world, you could regain that. Mm-hmm. So, boom, sense of humor, like, check. Very difficult to fake, also. Yeah. Very nearly impossible to fake sense of humor. So yeah, these are the things that we should be judged on, because we don't need to. We judge ourselves, me and you, all every day. Mm-hmm. We know where we are at. So this hour podcast or however long it is, this is what we need to be judged on by anyone else looking at if we are reliable sources of info or not. You make your determination if you should possibly listen to us about some things based on your interpretation of what our voices are telling you about our own health. Because if we can't affect our own health, definitely no one should listen to us. Resolving anxiety is one of your initial steps. Certainly was that way for me. Like in our early days, say maybe experimenting with niacinamide, like that just by itself will cut down half your anxiety, Mm. And obviously anxiety is not probably just one source of thing. It's probably two or three.
But if things are neutral or going backwards, how do you respond to that? Because a lot of people can just go backwards and then keep going backwards, and then they never get back to where they were, and they're just thinking about that one time.
That one time when I had it going on.
Yeah, I had it going on that one time,
So I got my log here for this last 2 or 3 months.
Okay.
So I had, you see this day? It's marked reset.
Uh-huh.
If days past that got worse and worse and worse and worse, I would come back to that reset day and just force myself to do every diet and lifestyle factor on the reset day and repeat that and then start over from experimentation, because all these whatever experiments I had been doing past that day didn't work out. And that's exactly what happened on the day of the 18th of last month. That was my reset day, and then things took a turn for the worse for like a week and a half or 2 weeks. It just got worse and worse and worse. And
so you just said, all right, I'm done.
Something's not working. I didn't even know exactly what it was. Okay. Something horrible is happening. I'm getting more and more sliding towards the negative on all these different factors.
Yeah.
Going back to my reset day.
Yeah, you talk about that all the time. And another way of doing that would just be like just start from one piece of food to the next, knowing what foods don't mess you up 100%. So for us, it'd be like, we know eggs are okay. We know cheese is okay, but how much?
Well,
you know what I mean?
I both those things are conditionally okay though. Eggs can be
not together. I'm saying
detrimental.
Like a list of things that we know.
Yeah, I hate saying that these are just the good things though, because if you just ate an egg by itself, that's funneling all the negative aspects of the hormone cascade, because that's almost like pure cholesterol. Mm-hmm. Well, with some vitamin A and some amino acids and whatnot. Yeah, that does exactly what I'm thinking more along the lines of what I talked about before, of where you say this spaghetti meal was passed down for hundreds of years and it got a little bit better. The recipe got a little bit better each time, a little bit better effects, a little bit better health effects. And then you keep that spaghetti meal the same because you know that it works. Mm-hmm. I try to do experimentation that way. I think I screwed it up in the time period that I was just talking about, but I really only want to be experimenting with like one of the meals per day. Just change something in that one meal. Mm-hmm. And then you got like, say, 2 or 3 other meals that are pretty good, that work.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to try and do today. I've already done 1 or 2 meals that I know are just fine, that aren't going to screw anything up, that are going to add to a very good day, and maybe in a couple hours I'll do something experimental. You want to call it? I'm itching. My muscles are itching to just be moved.
Yeah, let's go work on the greenhouse.